The rest of this Let's Play will be done in a different way. We finished the game.
Yay! Finished the game!
Because it was so hard to talk during this game and play. So
yeah, you have to focus, like, so hard.
I did want to say one thing that's really cool is this scene of crawling between the beds, under the beds. It actually reminds me a lot of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah, I thought this part was pretty cool. I did skip a little bit in between this to actually get to the part where we needed to be, because before this, there was like 15 minutes of us walking around not knowing where we were going. So
in Metal Gear Solid 5, without like heavy spoilers, I have to turn this down slightly. Sorry if you hear that. Without heavy spoilers, there is a part where you as Snake are getting out of treatment for something, for an injury.
Oh.
And there's a kill squad going through the hospital.
Oh.
And you're like trying to get out because you're really weak.
I think I've seen you play that scene for one of your videos.
It was really cool. And I know
you have to like smash some glass or something. Or wait, no, maybe I'm thinking about that one scene from James Bond where he had to get out of bed and they were like, well, he certainly has some damage to his liver from all that drinking. And then he woke up and they were like, you're off the case, Bond.
That's just Bond a movie. Left. That's just Die Another Day.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that film.
Well, there are similarities.
I got them confused.
This is a major mistake. I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do this. Anyway, regardless...
Idiot. Dummy.
Regardless, we don't have to just talk about the game, but we decided to do it this way because it was just too hard to talk, like, to each other while playing this stressful game. This game is very stressful.
Yeah, and, like, there's so many things in this game that you have to literally just sit and wait for. Like, we're getting to a part where we're gonna go through a door, and I'm not kidding, I had to cut, like, 20 minutes of us sitting and waiting because we didn't know what we were supposed to do, because there was supposed to be an item that changes.
Yeah.
And we didn't know if it changed or not.
Which is interesting, because that's something that they use again in Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know.
And then, well, they could have made it a little more obvious, I'm just saying. Also, I like how you shut the light off, because you were like, well, maybe they won't see me anymore, even though I killed everybody in this room.
I didn't know if they'd respawn. I wasn't sure if they'd come back, because sometimes in this game, people don't come back, sometimes they're unlimited.
That makes sense.
I don't know.
I just think it's funny that you turned the light off after you killed everybody.
Well, you know what? Now if someone else came in, they wouldn't see me.
So yeah, we have to go in this sauna, and we have to use that, like, key thing in there, and then it somehow melts and becomes a key. And we didn't really understand what it was supposed to look like. And also, where was that guy? He wasn't in the other room.
No.
So, like, where has he been?
Also, how do you get past the darkness?
I don't know. Like,
see, that's why I turned the light off.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, see? You thought it was a dumb move. I was going to talk to you about a couple things, though, while we do this. One of them is, and this is not a ha-ha or anything like that, because it sucks that this happened. You got fired from your job.
Haha, stupid.
Because they laid off, what was it, like 25% of their workforce or something?
Something like that.
Some crazy thing. And this brought something to my attention, which is, how do all of these business owners have the money to start a business, right? Mm-hmm. And run a business, but they don't know how to hire?
I don't know, it makes me mad, especially because this was supposed to be like a small family-owned business that cares about you.
No, none of them do. There's very few businesses like that.
And, like, I literally did all of the grand opening events and stuff like that, and, like, there was restaurant critics who came to, like, this special soft opening before the restaurant was even open to the public that I served and got good reviews from. Mm-hmm. You know? Like, I even took, like, pictures from their Instagram, like a creep, of their night there, because they, like, posted them on their story, and they were like, our waitress was amazing, we loved her, and stuff like that, and I, like, screenshotted it because I'm a narcissist. And, like, even after all of that, working there for months...
There's nothing wrong. I don't think that's narcissistic. That's just being happy with your work performance.
Well, yeah, I was happy that I made people so happy that they really liked me. Like, these were, like, big-time critics for restaurants in Minnesota, you know? And they wrote, like, whole articles about this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I was the one who served some of these people. I got these people to come back to this restaurant. You know, I had many reviews on Google that said, hey, I really like Jill, she's great. Uh-huh. You know, like, there were so many people who came back to the restaurant and wanted to be there because of me. Like,
yeah, they wanted a piece of that jelly pie.
I would even be, like, working, because I mostly worked on Sundays for some reason at this job. I would be working on, like, one Sunday, and then the very next Sunday, the people that I served last Sunday would come back in. and they'd be sitting at a table, and I'd recognize them, be like, "Hey, I recognize you," and they'd be like, "Yeah, we came back because you were so nice. We're sad that you're not our server this time." And I was like, "Ah, well, hopefully your other server's nice."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that's your reward. And it's interesting to me because a lot of places I've been, I've seen management. Like, I used to work at Target, for example. I worked at Walmart. I worked at a place that did catering for weddings, you know, all over the years. I worked as a teacher for a while. Worked as a secretary. Basically, my point is I've worked a lot of places. Mm. All of the places I've worked, they always wanted their workers to be loyal.
Yeah.
But there was only one of those jobs, maybe two, that were ever loyal to me and the people who worked there.
Yeah. It seems like they're always loyal to themselves. Like, and this place had problems where, like,
Wait 1 second. By the way, I have no idea what's up with all the dummies.
I don't know, that was weird.
This is a thing that occurs in a few spots in this game. Why are there dummies of soldiers?
And then sometimes there's real soldiers standing amongst them.
Yeah, somebody should explain that to me, because I did not understand that. Like, why would that be a thing?
I don't know.
Anyway, my point was just, before you get back to your thing, my point was just that I think it's interesting that people, you know, they always will tell you that thing about it's a small place and family-oriented and stuff like that. And there are a couple places that are that way. Like, for example, when I worked at a college as a secretary, and I was going to college at the time there, and I got a job working as a secretary there, like an actual job, not an internship, not a fake thing
for a
class. It was a real job.
Wow.
Because they tried to hire students for certain jobs. Which, interestingly, I think there were people working like mail service and stuff too at some of these places where, like, you know, mail would be delivered to different faculty. Anyway, they there were like sad when I left because I did a good job and I was one of the longer people to stay there, and they were pretty loyal to me and nice. And it was literally just, hey, you know, we need to hire students and you're graduating. And that was the whole reason I left.
Yeah.
And so for that, it was kind of a unique situation, though, where if I had kept taking classes there, I could have worked there still.
Yeah.
But there wasn't really anything left for me to do.
Yeah.
Also, that was the slowest descent into death.
I know, it was so slow.
Anyway, that was one of the only jobs ever that was loyal to me. And the other one that was was when I was catering weddings, but they had such a high turnover rate that I think one of the reasons they were nice is because I didn't leave when other people did. And then COVID happened, and then I was out of work for months, and then they wanted me to come back, but it's like by then I had found other opportunities.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, no. And I don't really blame them for that, though.
Yeah.
That was kind of just COVID, you know?
I'm really mad about my situation because it's owned... So these...
You gotta be careful you don't give out too much information on that, because we don't want to, you know...
Yeah, but I'm just gonna say these people who are very, very, very obviously well off decided one day, I'm gonna start a restaurant.
Because you've seen their house, that's how you know they're well off.
Yeah, because they had their full address written on my W-2, so I am a creep, and I looked it up on Google Maps.
Well, no, we sent them a letter.
And I sent them a letter about this, too. But yeah, we looked it up on Google Maps. They live in like $1 million house. I'm not kidding. And anyway, these people own one restaurant, and then I did well for a few years, so they were like, we're going to open another restaurant too. And so they did that, and I helped open up this whole restaurant, and like, they had like this close friend who was going to be the general manager and stuff, and then he left a couple months in. And so they had to rehire quite a few, like probably 2 or 3 new managers after like multiple people left. So I was there longer than some of the managers have been there, by the way. And I was super loyal to this place, super nice. I was always nice to the owners. Like there was even a picture of me next to both of the owners smiling, like when they opened up the restaurant. Like that's how like in on it I was. And then one day I just randomly get a call after they've been cutting my hours and I've only been working 1 day a week. And I open up my availability time because they were like, we need more people for more
No, because you call this a verbal contract in business, which you can get out of in a lot of ways. But the one manager said, hey, if you want more hours, open up this day, and this day, and we'll schedule you more. You did that, and then
I did the exact
literally
thing
a few days later, you get a call being fired.
Yeah, I get a call being fired, and I was like, is there anything I can do to like change your mind? And then I told them about how, so there's this thing in serving where if where people will have an average of like how much money they spent at your tables.
Yeah, it's called a check average.
Yeah, so like at the end of the night.
Oops, sorry about that. I accidentally kicked something.
At the end of the night, there'll be like they'll average out the money per person people spent per meal, and my average was usually above $30 per person, and they wanted it to be above $30. I would often get up to the $40 because this was like a bougie place, you know, like I would have people spending more than $40 per person check average.
By the way, there's a picture I want you to include because I want you to show who's sitting with us.
Because he's so cute.
While we make the Let's Play. Hi, Minnie.
So, like, I'm just saying, you know, I'm not the most elegant person. I'm certainly clumsy, you know, and maybe I'm not, like, the best server in the entire world in terms of skill.
And you're bisexual, and, you know, we do discriminate here.
Yeah, but, like, people...
Everybody in the comments, say one positive thing about Jill. She needs it.
Thank you. But, like, the thing is, people liked me. People always said to me, you are so nice. You did everything you could to try and make our experience great. We enjoyed being here. Like, I would get compliments all the time from people because that's what you just need to be as a server. You just need to be nice. And I was the nicest person that worked there.
So,
literally, like, I smiled all the time. People said, wow, you're the only person here who doesn't look like they want to die. I've gotten that compliment before, by the way. And then these people had the audacity to fire me.
Okay, well, let's settle down. We're not talking to the people who fired you. We're talking to nice people on the Let's Play that I don't want to think that we're using for therapy, but...
Well, I'm using them for therapy. I mean, they've heard my rants before.
Well, so the thing for me, which is weird, is we sent a letter to them, and make sure you show that picture of Minnie, by the way, he's cute.
Oh, and I wanted to mention with the thing with the check average, I have a higher check average than most other servers there.
It meant you were making the restaurant more money per shift than other servers were who retained their jobs.
Yes.
So anyway, we sent a letter. I don't know if you probably don't want to show it because you'd have to redact so much of it.
I couldn't show it because I put full names and full, like,
right, you'd have to black that out.
Yeah, we can't show it, but we could kind of, like, summarize it.
So anyway, we sent this letter about this, essentially saying that we're disappointed with the way that it was handled and talking about how, you know, you worked there ever since the grand opening and soft opening. And we talked about the whole thing with how the one person said, open up your availability, you'll get these more hours.
And then I texted that said person and asked for a written form saying exactly why I was fired. And in Minnesota, they legally have to give you that within like 10 to 15 days. Bro never answered me, by the way.
No.
So then I wrote about that in the letter, and I was like, oh, by the way, your manager didn't do this.
We wrote, when I contacted this person, I'm going to call him Bob. The guy who, you know, said that you would get more hours.
Bob McStinklington.
Yeah, regarding the reason for my termination, I was ignored despite the fact that Minnesota law from the Department of Labor and Industry states that an employer must give a truthful reason why an employee was terminated if requested in writing by the employee within 15 working days of termination. The employer has 10 working days from receipt of the request to give a truthful reason in writing for the termination.
And we looked it up. A text message does count as in writing.
Yes. And we had never gotten that, and we basically told them about how you turned down 2 different jobs to take this job.
I did, because I was applying to different jobs at that time, because I had just gotten out of this one job that was, like, the worst job I've ever worked at in my entire life. I gotta be honest with you, it was so bad. And so I applied to a bunch of different places, and I had, like, 2 or 3... people say like, oh, come in for an interview, or oh, would you like to work here? And I took this one job because the interview was like, the guy called me, interviewed me over the phone, and then said, you got the job, would you like to do it? And I was like, well, that was easy peasy, I guess I'll help open a whole restaurant, sure. Could be good for my resume.
Yeah, well, you'd certainly think, and that's what sucks is you were staying there for at least a year.
I was gonna try to.
Well, because your whole goal was to have that for your resume.
Yeah.
And now you don't.
Yeah.
Because they fired a fourth or whatever of their workforce.
It's not fair.
And basically, they listed the reason when they finally sent a letter back to us, because we sent this whole thing saying about this.
They couldn't even send a letter that like the guy who owns a place couldn't even send me a letter that he wrote himself. He had to send like a political mumbo jumbo letter about like that was like super formal about the reason why I got fired. And he couldn't even say anything addressing anything that I said in that letter. He couldn't even say, hey, Jillian, I'm so sorry to hear about this. You know, we had to make this decision for blah, blah, blah.
I need to include something in the conversation because we only have so much time. The biggest thing to me that I thought was interesting that we said in our letter was essentially the whole fact that we, you know, you had not a shoulder injury, but you've always had a shoulder that's kind of weaker and hurts more.
Yeah, I think I pulled some sort of nerve or something on it before you and I met, because ever since I have been with you, I've had like this shoulder pain in my right shoulder where like I can't lift things very well, and so that's why I have to see the chiropractor all the time for it.
Which I also think you could work on by starting with 3-pound weights and working up to 10-pound, which is something I was going to tell you I wanted you to do anyway.
Yeah.
So that's something I wanted to throw out there, not for them, but just something to remember. Because I used to have like really bad shoulder pain. You can do these exercises. They're like this, Jill. You put your arm at your side and you like lift up, and then you stop at a T. You don't go above that because then you're straining your shoulder, but you stop at a T and then you go down slowly. I started at 3 pounds, then I went to 5, then I went to 10, and you keep kind of working up.
Long story short, we had to tell the managers while I was working there that I couldn't lift up the ice buckets all the
Literally
time.
one thing.
Anymore.
One thing. It was, hey, you know, this one job at closing, I can't do this one job. And there's like 12 different closing jobs, and you even said I'd be willing to do extra of a different one to not have to do that.
Yeah, and the thing with the ice is like I could do it at other places because they only wanted me to use like 1 or 2 buckets at the most. This place was asking me to bring like 4 or 5 buckets to like all of the different ice stations, and it was way too much for me.
Well,
and especially because I'm the only 5-foot small girl there. Couldn't you have made one of the men carry that?
No, the equal opportunity, equal pain.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know. No, but yeah, and we talked about that, and we said, you know, that it kind of felt like because you told them that week, 1 week before you were fired, or a week and a half before you were fired, you said, hey, you know, this is bothering me. I would just like a little bit of, you know, what would you say? Not compensation, not like monetary compensation, but I'd like to be able to do a different job.
Any of the other side work, basically.
Yes,
like I said, I'd be willing to take out the trash and clean things up and all this other crap.
And keep in mind, you weren't hired for that job, and you were also someone who would stay late. Like I remember you stayed like an hour or 2 late one night, just a week before that, doing closing work that the actual closer, like the people who were supposed to do, didn't do.
Yeah.
So, long story
And by the way, I got criticized for that by one of the managers.
Yeah, they were like, why didn't you leave earlier?
I wanted to tell you, like, so there was this one guy, who was the guy who hired me, by the way, where...
I thought the guy who hired you got,
No, he's still there.
Was he the scheduler who lied?
No, that's not the scheduler who lied. That's a different guy.
Oh, okay, got it.
But anyway, so he was there this one night, and I rolled a bunch of extra silverware because a bunch of people left who, like, didn't roll their silverware. And I rolled it at this one table, and then this one guy who was a server there was, like, basically being kind of mean to me and said, like, I wasn't pulling my weight enough because I didn't fill up the ice enough for him because my shoulder was hurting really bad. So I tried to tell the manager about it, and the manager was like, well, you were sitting at that table for a really long time, and it didn't look like you were doing anything, so maybe he has a point. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I didn't say it like that, but I did say, are you kidding me? I just rolled an entire bin of silverware because other people left without doing it. And I think that must have made him angry or something because I told him, like, what I did, and then...
Oh, wait, by the way, Gray Fox is calling us.
Okay.
Snake. That's it. Snake, it's me, Gay Fox. Drop those pants. Fox. You should have listened to my warning, Snake. Now I'm afraid our friendship is at an end.
Well, that's rude.
Hey, it's like the restaurant you worked for when you did too much work.
True.
That elevator is going to be your tomb. Sorry, I meant Tom B. He's my friend. What? Do you hear that sound? That's an assassination team. They specialize in confined spaces. Are these the guys from Captain America 2?
Yes.
I'm sure you'll put up a good fight. The ceiling. No, I'm Snake. You be quiet. It was nice talking to you one last time, Snake. Over and out.
But then I'm also going to be in the next game, Metal Gear Solid.
Well, don't tell anyone that.
Oh,
We are
okay.
the Four Horsemen, the top secret assassination squad. Yes. Yes. We get our orders directly from the President. Yes, President Minnie.
President Minnie.
Consider this an order. We only fry the big fish.
Look how cute he is sitting on you.
Well, but I was gonna say that it felt like retaliation.
And it also felt like no matter how hard I tried to do extra things around there to make up for the fact that there was one thing that I couldn't do, it felt like I was always being called lazy or like not good enough, even though I did all these extra things because I didn't make a huge show of doing all these extra things. I didn't scream at the top of my lungs, I rolled 100 silverware tonight! You know, I would just do it and then put it away and be like, hey, I did this, yay. You know, and not like make a huge thing about it. And then I would get like told, oh, I'm not doing enough cut work and stuff like that. And it's like I couldn't do anything right for these people, even though I was trying my hardest to do everything they asked me to and more. You know, and I feel like I've never had to deal with that before. You know, like in school when you would do the most to try and get an extra grade, people would be like, oh wow, you did such a good job. Here's the extra grade. And, like, at other jobs I've been at, people have mostly noticed the stuff I did. But then at this one, it's just like I was invisible. And nobody cared. And then I got fired for doing the best job I could have possibly done. You know? And it was just very upsetting.
Honestly, I thought about doing what T said that one woman did and contacting a lawyer that, like, would work pro bono to sue the restaurant.
I kind of wish. You know, I honestly was thinking about contacting, you know what, never mind. I probably shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say this.
So T, his, because he works in different, you know, like, management roles with different restaurants and things like that. And, like, food businesses. And one of the things that happened to him was this person lied after they came in for an interview, and they basically said they were discriminated against. Now, for me, I actually feel like you were. Like, I feel like you were discriminated against, because... And this is not like this is not a shade or an insult, but something you talked about was that for servers, you were one of the only ones who had, you know, that, like, a request for any kind of, not change of their job, but just modification.
I was also one of the only servers that was a little bit overweight, because most of the other ones are very skinny.
So it made me think, like, well, are you... And one time they made that comment to you about you're not pulling your weight.
Yeah.
Which to me, I mean, like, maybe I'm reaching, but to me that sounds like a bodily discrimination comment.
Doesn't it kind of feel like that when you're saying that to a girl who's very obviously, you know, a little chunkier than most? Like,
which you're working on.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You're trying to get in better shape.
I'm not, like, gigantic, but I'm just saying,
well,
you know, okay,
no, I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying, you know, like, it's very obvious that I'm not a super skinny person. I don't think you should say that kind of thing to somebody who's not super duper skinny, because it does come off as wrong. It's like saying, you know,
it's like saying you got red on your ledger to a Native American.
Yeah, it's like that. Or like,
why would you say that?
Or like, if you're not Spanish but you randomly say the word Negro as the color black and you're like in the presence of a black person, isn't that kind of weird?
Like, you're, you're like, you're doing it almost on purpose. Like, you're like, oh, can you hand me the black pen, Trayvon?
Yeah.
I just came up with a name that sounded racist. But you know what I mean.
But
like, if there was a guy who was black, you were like, can you hand me that black pen?
Yeah.
You would be like, what do you mean by that?
It's kind of, it's like a little bit, it's, you know, there's a bunch of liberal people who say, like, microaggressions, and I didn't understand what it meant.
Okay, usually it's fake. That's usually it's fake, that's
but I do think that might be a microaggression.
99% of the time, people's, like, microaggression thing is a fake thing because they're being oversensitive.
I'm standing by it, though. That's a microaggression.
This was a weird thing. Like, there were a lot of weird situations around this job. That's why I genuinely, because, like, if someone can lie and make it up and get in contact with a lawyer and sue a business, why couldn't someone telling the truth get in contact with a lawyer and sue a business?
Can we tell people about that? Because
well, he helped interview this person.
There was people there, and like he was he was on a board of people who were like helping hire for this one business, and this lady said specifically that T called her too old, and he didn't say any of that. He barely said anything during this. He was just like, yeah,
and
okay.
yeah, he just asked questions about the person and about their interest in working and availability and stuff like that. That was it. And then when they didn't get the job, they said that
T specifically said that
he said that they were too old to work there, and said, well, how old are you anyway?
I know.
Which is hilarious.
And he'd never say that. He wouldn't say that.
This same person, apparently, during it, they had a special needs worker, and this person admitted during the interview that they were terrified of special needs people, but that they were nice to that person as a positive thing. And I am convinced that this person was trying to not get hired so that they could sue them.
I kind of think they were, so
Like,
they could get some sort of compensation.
Can you imagine if, like, I knew the boss's son had, like, Down syndrome, and I said, like, man, I really hate people with Down syndrome, or something like that. Like,
But I'm willing to work with this person.
But I'm willing to work with them, and they seem like one of the good ones.
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the hell?
That's basically what she said to these people that were interviewing her.
There's also a scene just like this in Metal Gear Solid 1, by the way. Remember the communications
this one lasts
tower?
so freaking long.
Do you remember the communications tower?
Yeah.
Because Nate and I just did it. Like, we were playing through Twin Snakes, which is going to be on this channel, actually. We just did that part of the game the other day. And it's literally this, again.
Yeah, I don't know why they copied it.
Metal Gear Solid has a lot of elements from Metal Gear 2, but just in 3D.
Yeah, it's
which
very
is interesting. Except I really prefer Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid's a way better game.
By a lot.
Way
But I love the vibes and the music and the look of this one. Yeah, I don't know. I guess overall it's weird to me that it's so weird to me. I will close on this for my thoughts because there's only a couple minutes left of this part. I don't think that you should be totally turned off to restaurant business, not as a career for your whole life, but as a way to just make quick money. Because I do think that as a part-time gig, it can be a good thing. You know, like if you find another thing where it's, you know, a handful of hours a week at some point, like even if it's, you know, you want to go to school to do something else or you want to think about something else, I think that it's good for people like you if you can get your head out of the gutter, like for your like the way you feel every day, because you often would like bring home the frustration of the work and be upset, and then you wouldn't want to do your art and stuff, but it's really good for hours of flexibility of like you can make $20-30 an hour, sometimes more on a good night.
Yeah.
Whereas and work less hours, whereas to make the same amount of money,
you have to work more
you have to work like 40 hours.
Job.
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of my thing with it, of why I've always said it can be a good opportunity for someone like you who also wants to do other things like art, YouTube, all these things.
But the thing is, it's back-breaking work. Like, there's a reason it's tipped work, because it is back-breaking work.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's easy.
Well, but what I'm trying to say is it's, like, one of those jobs where you just feel like you just go completely unappreciated by the people you work with. It's like, you feel like a single mom who has 6 kids who's, like, breaking her back, making dinner for them every night and going to these 12-hour jobs and like doing all this stuff for them, and then they never say thank you. That's how I feel when I go to these jobs. You know, it's like I always feel like I'm on my own, and I feel so lonely because it's like nobody really cares about you in the restaurant industry.
I hate to tell you this, but I felt that way at every job I ever had.
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes me feel so sad.
Even the ones that were like loyal to me, I still felt like alone and unappreciated. Mm-hmm. You know, there wasn't a single job where I felt really appreciated and like I was in the company of friends.
I felt appreciated at this one pizza place I worked at until this one guy shoved me, and I told them. I told the managers, and basically the owner said I was a liar, and then they didn't like me anymore, so I had to quit.
Well, you didn't have to quit, but what you did was essentially you told, like, this was literally an assault. Like, you could have called the cops.
Yeah.
Because the guy shoved you into something in the kitchen.
Well, I wasn't going to continue working in a place where somebody called me a liar and somebody shoved me.
Yeah, that's just not a safe work environment.
No.
But also, I don't think that restaurant's making a lot of money either. And I think part of it is their environment. Like, that was a restaurant where, I think we talked about this in Stellar Blade one time, that was a restaurant where essentially you had someone saying, like, hey, do you feel safe working here? Because, like, the cooks were, like, screaming at each other and dropping F-bombs and stuff, and it was an open kitchen.
Yeah, it was like one of those restaurants where you see into the kitchen, you can see the guy making the food in front of you.
Yeah, kind of like Chipotle.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
like
Chipotle, but it was kind of like it, where you can see back behind it. Now imagine those guys are cussing at each other and pushing each other and shit like that.
Yeah. And it's like, it reminded me of the construction workers that my dad worked with. Because my dad is in construction, and I used to, like, go on some of his sites with him when I was a little kid just to see what's going on. And some of those guys would say some crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And that was the behavior that was going on in that kitchen. And
except the customers could see it.
Yeah.
So...
And I thought to myself, like, are we on a construction site right now?
Yeah. Well, and long story short, I think, unfortunately, you've had a lot of bad, experiences in that business, but I still say to keep your mind open to things. There could always be another opportunity. It's unfortunately something where it's like everybody has to work, obviously. There's not really... The thing that sucks is there's not a right answer, too, because you can go to school for something for years and then end up not liking it. I did that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a teacher.
I know.
You know? So I think that unfortunately they make it so hard to become anything, and human beings are multifaceted, so it's very hard to figure out what to do. And if you have mental health problems, the thing that people don't tell you, which is, it sucks, is no matter what you do, even if it's your dream job, there will be a part of you that's sad.
Why?
And lonely.
Why though?
Because you have a mental health problem. Because you have that in your DNA and in your head. And so that's why people go to therapy. That's why people use medicine. And
Is
even
that why people get a guy named Manny?
yeah, little Cosmos.
Is that why
And
people get him?
and even with that, you know, like there are people, Robin Williams, he had a, you know, his dream job and stuff, and he was one of the kindest people ever, and he still took his own life because he
That one
felt,
really still upsets me a lot.
because he felt hopeless. Like he felt like he was, you know, gonna lose himself, and he struggled with depression his whole life, and he had basically a degenerative mental disease.
I think about him a lot because, like, the stuff that happened with him was just so tragic.
It is.
And I worry that I'm gonna feel like that when I'm his age.
Well, and, you know, and that's the thing, though, is, like, I'm not saying... that's why all this stuff gets kind of complex, though, and that's why I say to keep your options open, because, you know, if you want to be able to do your art, you still need some flexibility.
Yeah.
And so you need something that is that way, because there's unfortunately only 24 hours in the day. So
Speaking of the art, don't you want to mention the Comic-Con that we're going to?
Yeah, we're going to a couple of events. Jill will put the dates here. I want this video to go up today, Jill, so I don't want to drag it on any longer. But Jill will put the dates here. One is a D&D event where we're going to be selling stuff. There's going to be discounted prices. We always do discounted prices at live shows.
And these are both events that are happening in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So if you live in the Midwest and you can get your butt to Wisconsin... Heck yeah, you can meet Degenerate Jay himself!
Ow. And one of the reasons we go there is because we can't afford the Twin Cities ones if you live in Minnesota, because for one small table at, like, Anna Minneapolis, it was something like $600.
It was ridiculous. But I can afford the ones in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's it. So let's wrap it up, and we'll
see you in the next one.
do more of these. We're going to try to get through this game as quick as possible.